Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Thank you. It's been a long time coming. It is with great pleasure we stand with you today to provide an announcement. It's with hard work, diligence with our team, it's finally paid off. Is everybody tired of seeing that? Well, I'm proud to announce that we've been approved to convert the hotel to a Courtyard by Marriott. That's the future. We've worked very hard to get there. To be an $11 million project, roughly 76 rooms. We can only believe the economic impact to downtown and to the city of Aiken will be outstanding. Just a little to let you know about us and why Aiken. Aiken has been good to us. We're very happy here. We feel that we've had the opportunity to do this in many places, but Aiken has and always will be a special place to my family and me. My father built his first hotel in Aiken, South Carolina. This happened in 1983. Today we own 3 hotels in Aiken. Once Hotel Aiken is completed, all in Aiken will be of the Marriott brand. We are also developing one Marriott hotel in Charleston, right next to our existing Spring Hill Suites by Marriott. It's with great pleasure Aiken gets to meet our architect. We think we have found a great partnership with his group. And now, please welcome Richard Rao.
Thank you. I've been told that we're running a little short on time, so I'm going to try to accelerate through this as much as I can. It's a pleasure to be here. This is a remarkable community. We are proud to be involved in this project. Let me see if I can get this thing to work. You should have flipped through this, Neel. Here we go. This hotel's been on this corner, Lawrence and Richland, for 120 years. In its present form, it's been on this corner for 100 years. I think we're all used to seeing it. One of the privileges, one of the great things about doing an adaptive reuse hospitality project in a community like this is it gives you the opportunity to engage beyond the simple architectural solutions that you have to do to solve a problem. You know, all the technical stuff and all the configurational stuff. It also gives you the opportunity to address the important civic issues of the community that it happens to be in. Historic preservation, life on the street, resurrection of the infrastructure, various economic development, a lot of community type things, urban design. But then it also has an ingredient which is dealing with the state-of-the-art industry, hospitality, global standards of the moment in time, which is now in 2017. So that's also an important consideration to deal with. And then there's a third. These are things we're all mindful of when we do this sort of project. And the third thing, in a particular case of Aiken, and not all projects are worthy of this, and not all projects have this ingredient. But there's the audience nationally for cultural tourism to experience the cultural history of our nation. And this is not just any ordinary hotel, because Aiken has that special quality about it. So those 3 things kind of guide us, and those 3 things, those 3 issues, those 3 solutions are things that we try to pursue. Aiken was a planned community. It was, along with Washington, D.C., along with Savannah, a city in the wilderness, planned as a grid. The Hotel Aiken is a component in establishing and stabilizing and in defining that urban design principle. And I think the city planners here, and I think a lot of the community people and the historians understand that. So it's a very significant feature to that aspect of what makes Aiken special. Now, Aiken was named after a railroad president. And, you know, it's here because one of the very first railroads in the world were here. And it was, like many other communities at the time that this happened, in the early 19th century, it was a retreat. It was a retreat from the noxious environment of that horrible coastal city, Charleston. And the little railroad that came through here and went on to the Savannah River, stopped in Aiken, was where the name came from. And so we think it's real important to kind of recognize that as part of the historical legacy of the hotel. And of course, the idea of the retreat is one that will recur later on in our discussion. Now, what about the actual evolution of the building? Along with the city of Aiken itself, some of you may or may not know how the hotel evolved, but here we have every year or every period of the Sanborn map that shows you how in the 1880s there was nothing there, and how Lawrence Street and Richland slowly evolved and became more commercial. And then you can see in the 1890s, around 1895, a grocery store owner decided he wanted to build a grocery store on that corner. And in the bottom of the hotel, in the bottom of this building, he put his grocery store. Then he had his hotel lobby on Lawrence Street, facing Lawrence, with a stair that went upstairs. Now, this would have been a building that was sort of built in the Victorian mode with brick and a sort of flat roof kind of thing. So the building didn't look like it does now. And as time went on, you can see, oh, wait a minute. I don't want to belabor this, but you can see that the building took its, let me show you this. You see that central stair there? That is the stair that took you upstairs to the guest rooms from the lobby. And the original kitchen, the original dining room, and that sort of thing in the hotel were in the back corner with the actual cooking taking place outdoors. And by the way, the guest rooms at that time all had wood-burning stoves in the guest room right in front of the window. So that all changed as time went on. And then around World War I, an addition was put onto the building, and people came in from the Northeast and brought their fancy construction techniques with them, and reinforced concrete and that sort of thing, with elevators and whatnot. So this rear end of the building here was tacked on at that time. So what you're seeing there in terms of the building, and I'll whip through this because I know it's going to not interest everybody really, but what you're seeing is this line right here is the original historic building. And that right there is where the stair was that took you upstairs. This is how the building looks now. Then this heavy wall right here is the demarcation between the World War I edition and the 1895 edition. And then this on the back, of course, was tacked on in the modern era. So when you look at the building, and we measured this whole thing up, and you go through it like an archaeologist, and you uncover things, and you try to figure out how it was built, all this reinforces what was on the Sanborn map. So on the exterior, This is the way it looked in 1929. Now, what they did when they added onto the building was they remodeled the outside and added this colonial revival trim on it. And the pitched roofs and that sort of thing. So what you're seeing here is actually two buildings that have been facelifted to have this kind of continuous facade on it. And that's the building of the 1920s. Now, the retreat aspect of Aiken is very significant because, like other communities where the most the wealthiest people in social classes took advantage of these retreats, and places like Asheville, places like Palm Springs in California, Naples, Florida, a bunch of lawyers and bankers from Louisville, Kentucky went down there and founded Naples as a fishing village. And of course, Newport, Rhode Island. What happened is Aiken became one of those precious accepted places for Northeasterners to come do equestrian sports. And the famous winter colony is here and had been in the 1920s. So the 1920s was sort of the apex of that culture across the whole country. And the history of that, which many people know about, is well chronicled in the book Life in Aiken, which some of you know about. Now, internally in the hotel, the colonial revival trim that you see on the outside was also carried into the building. So this is the architecture of the 1920s. And the architecture of the 1920s is very significant because the architecture of the 1920s and the colonial revival vocabulary is the style that was popular at the time that America really came of age. It became an important world power, and you'll find all across the USA, Greenfield Village in Michigan with Henry Ford, John D. Rockefeller at Williamsburg, Virginia, which was a 1920s creation. A lot of people think that Williamsburg has looked like that for 100 years. John D. Rockefeller went in there in the 1920s and paid millions of dollars to turn it into this sort of Disney-esque thing with some historical authenticity to it. And that was the same era as this building when it got renovated. So it's important to kind of understand, I think, that this colonial revival look of the building, including its exterior, is sort of a monument to one of architecture's most significant times when America was at its most energetic and had just discovered itself and the great pride that people had in America. So these things have meaning. Now, moving along fast here. So how do you expand this building and turn it into a modern hotel without damaging or tearing down its neighbors, and while keeping the original building intact? And the solution that we came up with, and I'm going to go through the plans real quickly right now. As you can see here in gray is the historic building. And the property lines are here, 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 and here. So what we've done is we have extended the existing hotel with brand new state-of-the-art Marriott rooms. So that half of the hotel rooms are state-of-the-art Marriott rooms and half are historic rooms. And in order to make that work, we have this internal courtyard which it wraps around. So this is an outdoor courtyard with a pavilion in the middle of it that is directly on axis with the entrance. And then, of course, we have to solve the fire exiting and that sort of thing. So the configuration of the building is a result of all this. Now, the interior characteristics of the hotel, this is the brand new Generation 6 Marriott Courtyard room. This is the Generation 6 Marriott Courtyard exterior and toilet room, bathroom in the hotel. Using the interior as a model, we've hired one of the best interior designers in the Southeast to work on the hotel, and he has come up with some schemes for the interior rooms. Of course, the modernistic looking new generation Marriott Courtyard building is not going to be what we're doing on the outside. So on the ground floor, what happens? You have the old building here, and you have your exiting, doing this, and then you have your courtyard. And this is all done in order to preserve as much as possible the character of that colonial revival interior. And that courtyard, what about that courtyard? That courtyard we're going to render, and this is it. We're going to render in the fashion of Charleston, wrought iron balconies and New Orleans wrought iron balconies. So it's going to have a real southern character to it. And then the lobby of the hotel will be a mixture of the old building, the new building, and the courtyard. And you can see that we'll be breaking open some of the front facade and doing al fresco seating off of the bistro, so there will be Cinzano tables and chairs out on the street and whatnot. And then we also have a new vehicular drop-off there. And then further on down on Lawrence Street, preserving the original retail facades and the original retail uses, so there will be small shops there. So there's a hotel and some retail on the first floor. On the upper floor, as you can see the configuration, how it works, old rooms, new rooms. And then on the top floor, which is the fourth floor, NMR is going to do a lounge, bar, meeting room complex with an outdoor terrace overlooking Richland and B Lane, with a nice sort of cavern sort of situation here with the toilet rooms and meeting rooms and whatnot, all completely compliant with the need to have emergency exiting for groups of that kind for New Year's Eve events or whatnot. So what does this all add up to when you add the addition onto the building? This is the roof. You can see how the exiting works. And then this is the way the building masses out. So you can see the original building stops here. The new building is this plus in the back. You can see here the new drop-off on Richland. You can see the B Lane treatment with guest rooms and a little sort of arcade here to keep the privacy of the guest rooms intact, and storefront glazing around the street, facade, and improvements to sidewalks and whatnot, and carrying the theme of the old building into the new building so that it is fused together in a unified scheme, one which masses out in accordance with the existing streetscape. This is a close-up of how the front entrance would work. A couple of modest little additions, flags, iron accents, a marquee type entrance, and some other features here that define in a very light touch way, but in a very powerful way, the presence of a first-class hotel. This is a street view of the B Lane facade, again, with more wrought iron accents here and the arcade. And this is Lawrence Inn. Again, you can see another marquee here with Hotel Aiken on it. You can see the flags on down the street here, and you can see the storefronts here blending with the existing historic facades, maintaining the urban design character of the existing downtown village. And again, a close-up look of that internal courtyard. In 3D, that's how it would look. We don't have any people in it yet, but this is where we took it when we made this image. But actually what happens here is the courtyard functions to tie all the floors together. So you go around on the upper floor, you come out, you go down and around. You can come from the courtyard up to the second floor, from the second floor up to the third floor. This right here is where the elevator is in the new building. So it's all very tightly meshed together. And when Marriott saw the way that it was laid out, they fell in love with it. And they said so. They think it works very nice. They think it complements their new prototype. And they're very picky about that. They want any new hotel that's going to be a Marriott Courtyard to also reflect the principles of their new prototype. And so what about those historic guest rooms? Are they going to be mean and nasty, or are they going to be really nice? Well, guess what? The yellow guest rooms here are the historic rooms. And this is what they look like. They are a little bit narrower, but here's the thing. This hotel has 11-foot ceilings, not 9-foot ceilings in the guest rooms, 11-foot ceilings. Makes the room really very luxurious, very large. And the historic rooms have a tall ceiling. And the real breakthrough on this was when we did the new wing and put the new Marriott hotel rooms. These are even better than the standard Marriott Courtyard guest rooms because they also have 11-foot ceilings. So it's state-of-the-art Marriott Courtyard guest room with 11-foot ceilings and state-of-the-art interior. This is a historic room bathroom. Marriott wasn't real keen on every single color in these pictures, but it's close. And then where the room, there's only 2 or 3 rooms where the rooms are sort of narrow, and this is a solution for that. And it really works quite well, I would say. So, sum up, I don't know how long it took, probably too long, but so to sum up, meeting the basic requirements of the civic agenda, meeting the requirements of the brand, and meeting the requirements of the audience out there in the world who wants to come to Aiken to experience the cultural history that's special to Aiken, just like Asheville has, the Vanderbilt Mansion. Aiken has the Winter Colony and the equestrian sports, and it also has adjacency to the Masters, right? So, I'm not kidding you. So we're taking a theme from this historical, cultural tradition in this area, and it's pervading the hotel. So I will now give this back to Neel.
Thank you, Richard. I apologize for a long presentation, but we want everybody to understand it's meaningful to us what has happened. In closing, I'd just like to say the hotel won't be like anything you've seen before. I think you've seen that now. It will be a boutique hotel, which is very, very unique to the Courtyard by Marriott brand. We expect to begin some demolition the first week of January. Our goal was to be open by Masters of 2019. Hopefully it will go on progress and we won't be slowed down, but we'll hope that happens. I want to thank my family, my team, additionally, the leadership of the City of Aiken, and last but not least, the Aiken Chamber of Commerce. They are always very vital to any small town, city, or community. I can tell you, we are lucky enough to live in Aiken, South Carolina.
Neel, to you and your team, what a wonderful Christmas present for Aiken. Thank you so much. I know we're running short, so I'm not going to go through everything I normally do. But I do have something that I feel is so important, and that is for us to thank Charlie Hards. Now, don't thank him yet. Charlie has had to step in 6 months early to become the chairman when Fran Jones was transferred. And he has now been the chairman for